What's the chance for tropical development in the Gulf later this week? Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We're your home for Caribbean weather, and it's great to see you on this Monday. I hope you're doing well. Hope you had a great weekend. We're going to get right into what's happening in the forecast now. I'm going to answer that question for you about the tropical outlook coming up as we go through this video. You got a question about the forecast, feel free to drop it in the comments section below. We continue to see some active weather in the eastern Caribbean, especially down in the Windward Islands. Scattered showers and thunderstorms continue to develop over the islands of Trinidad and Tobago, where we do have a localized flood alert, yellow alert number 1. I mentioned this in last week's videos that it was going to start to get more active in the eastern Caribbean, especially down in the lower latitude Windward Islands. And that's what we're seeing, mainly for Trinidad for today, but portions of Tobago could see some localized flooding where landslides are a potential, as some areas could get more than 2 to 3 inches of rain or 50 to 75 millimeters. You'll find all the information for Trinidad and Tobago and all of our island nations across our area in our information hub at the bottom of your screen for all of the up-to-date watches, warnings, and advisories, including marine issues as well. So again, scattered showers and thunderstorms, TNT up towards Grenada, some of that trying to work its way towards Nueva Esparta. And that's about as far north as it's gotten right now. Things are much better, if you will, as you go farther north towards places like Barbados and St. Lucia. I'll show you the visible satellite imagery here, and you can clearly see that plume of tropical moisture that has gotten over TNT and Grenada on over towards Nueva Esparta. We could see a few showers eat their way towards Barbados and St. Vincent, maybe as far north as St. Lucia, but then the rest of the Lesser Antilles is likely to be much drier for today, with a few passing showers there and a lot of wind. And I'm going to get to that for you coming up in just a couple of seconds. We'll move on with our next weather headline for today, and that's another area where we've had some good thunderstorms on this Monday afternoon. That's our friends in Jamaica. Scattered showers and thunderstorms developing at the hour. First of all, look at the amount of lightning being produced by these storms. I mean, you snap your fingers, my friends, and we're getting 400, 500, 600 plus lightning strikes in a 15-minute time frame. I'm going to take this loop and I'm just going to pause it just to show you where the strongest storms are right now, mainly in south, central, or southern areas. You know, places like St. Elizabeth Parish and Manchester and Clarendon, back over towards St. Catherine, Portmore, Spanish Town, the Kingston areas as well. Certainly some thunderstorms trying to develop north of there, but if I zoom in a little bit more, look at all of the lightning near Black River and Santa Cruz, even Savile-Lamar, some thunderstorms near Cambridge, Mandeville, and the Maypen areas right now, and again, trying to develop some rain near the Kingston and Spanish Town areas as well. But this has been a fairly active, localized event across Jamaica on this Monday. If you've been impacted by the storms, please let me know in the comments section below. We still have a heck of a lot of wind. We have the large wave and strong wind advisory for the offshore waters, including Pedro and Morant Banks. But a very active, stormy day there, trying to, if nothing else, cool things off a bit for our friends in Jamaica. Okay, back out to the broad perspective here. I'm going to throw the wind gust back on, and we're going to see what's happening across the rest of our area. I briefly mentioned the rest of the Lesser Antilles already. Well, again, it's a quieter day from Martinique to Dominica, Guadeloupe, Montserrat, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, Saba, St. Eustatius, St. Martin, and Anguilla. Fairly tranquil conditions. You'll see when you look at the 5-day forecast down below that, not a ton of rain chances there over the next few days. It's a windy, hot, somewhat miserable forecast for the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. Now, the winds are still fresh. Again, wind gusts right now, 25 to 30 miles an hour, but there's a heat advisory for Puerto Rico for feels like temperatures up to 105 degrees Fahrenheit. A few storms are trying to develop in the inland western sides of the island between Mayagüez and Ulti Alto. If you get a cooling thunderstorm today, consider yourselves quite lucky. Hey, thankfully, all of the flood advisories for the Dominican Republic have been allowed to expire. So not as much rain on a daily basis, but there's still some thunderstorms, and you can clearly see some of those are lining up from Santo Domingo, San Pedro de Macorís, La Romana, Punta Cana, lifting their way north across the Samana Peninsula towards Puerto Plata. Some of the higher elevation, you can see again the problem with Hispaniola, very mountainous terrain, up to 11,000+ feet elevation. You get some of the thunderstorms in the higher terrain, it can lead to quick localized flooding of low-lying areas, so keep that in mind. A few passing showers are possible for places like Turks and Caicos and the southeast Bahamas for today, but very limited moisture there. And it's the same situation across the northern side of the island chain as well. Now, there is still a Saharan dust advisory for all of the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. If we're going to catch a couple of thunderstorms, it's the same areas that have been more prevalent the last few days, and that's with some storms developing along a weak boundary off the peninsula of Florida, and then getting a few storms to get going over places like the Abacos, Grand Bahama, Walker's Key, Bimini, maybe as far south as Andros, New Providence, and Eleuthera, but mainly drier conditions there. Now look, don't take these storms for granted. They have been producing some locally heavy downpours and a fair amount of lightning strikes over Great Abaco for today in the eastern sides of Grand Bahama. Again, you've been impacted by some of these thunderstorms across the area today. Let me know in the comments section below. Back out to the big perspective here. That's the wrong button. Back out to the big perspective. And again, we'll see what's happening in our western zones for today. Look, it's a beautiful forecast across most of Quintana Roo. Temperatures, again, are heating up, especially in the Merida area, where once again, we could easily top off in the upper 90s for actual temperatures with feels like numbers well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. We're continuing to see some thunderstorms developing with some breezy conditions across the Bay Islands. Places like Utila, Roatan, Guanaja, 25, 30-mile-an-hour winds, kicked up sea conditions, fair amount of lightning, some of that balling up right now and trying to work its way back into the southern sides of Quintana Roo and Belize, from San Pedro back down towards Belize City. So again, a little bit more active forecast here, my friends, in these areas. If you've had some of the showers and storms, let me know. Other storms along the coastline of Honduras back down towards Nicaragua. Central American gyre is quite active, so thunderstorms are numerous for today for Costa Rica and Panama, and very windy conditions yet again for the ABC Islands. Fairly dry conditions across the area for today. Don't expect a lot of rain for Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao anytime soon. Now, the next big weather story is what else is new, and that more Saharan air is likely to work its way back into the area. When I show you the water vapor imagery, the reds are the drier air. Now, there's some moisture streaming back in. We had a tropical wave move across the Central Caribbean over the weekend, and that's fed in some moisture, and it's actually tapped into the Central American gyre, and you can see that some of the moisture has lifted north and east, but the Cayman Islands, Cuba, most of Quintana Roo is dry, and again, the Saharan air advisory for most of the Bahamas and into portions of Turks and Caicos. So when we look at the Saharan dust layer through the week ahead, again, your brighter colors on this map are the higher concentrations of dust. This is just a nice plume moving through the Caribbean and the southern side of the Bahamas, moving into the Southwest Gulf as we head towards Friday. So an east to west movement. So respiratory sufferers, Eastern Caribbean, rougher early in the week, Western Caribbean, worse later in the week. So improving conditions from places like Haiti and the Dominican Republic back towards Barbados as we get deeper into the week. Okay, it's now time to get into the rest of the forecast, my friends. As we do so, thanks for taking a quick second, hitting that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Again, your daily forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas. All tropical outlooks for you guys as well. Going to bring on the marine interest forecast for you guys right now. So you're going to get the marine forecast for over 25 major harbors, cruise ports, and fishing areas of interest. Let's talk about what could be developing potentially tropically in the next 7 to 10 days. Again, El Nino, things are still very quiet in the Caribbean and the Atlantic Basin. We have fresh winds, but that is certainly providing some shear. Now, just like it has been during the beginning of the Atlantic hurricane season, the development area continues to be portions of the Gulf. There is another front that will be moving south across the Gulf, just off of the east coast of Florida and off the east coast of the United States, and beginning to stall out as we go over the weekend. You can already start to see some of the numerous showers and storms in association with that. If I show you the visible satellite imagery, you'll see that there's just a little bit of gentle twist to the atmosphere overall. Typically, when these fronts begin to die out, mid-level energy can be left behind, and if there's just enough spin and juice in the atmosphere, we can start to see some homegrown development here in the northern Gulf. Let me show you what the models look like with that. The first thing I'm going to do is switch over to our absolute vorticity product. So that's the first thing I want to show you guys. And then we're going to take a look at some of the models. Now, what this product is a composite of the low levels of the atmosphere where we might have some spin, okay? And you can clearly see there's a few areas through the weekend that the models are beginning to pick up on that. As this front begins to decay and along that boundary, there is that opportunity. Now look, there's some shear that could be fighting this system, especially on the northern side of it. And it just depends on how things play out. But right now, it's extremely marginal. The Hurricane Center isn't, at least as of this recording of the video, even highlighting an area either in the Gulf or in the far western Atlantic basin off of this old boundary. But I can show you that some of the models are a little bit more robust. If we take a look at the European AI ensemble members, as we go into early next week, you'll start to see several of them develop. Now, some of this, again, lifts inland very quickly, and all of them are on the weaker side and very close to the coast. So regardless, even if we do get some development, it's likely to be, again, a weak system, just like Arthur was, and more of a rainmaker and potential storm surge maker or coastal problems for the northern Gulf and potentially some of the east coast of the United States. But that could be a system or a broad sloppy system that brings some significant rain to parts of those areas starting this weekend through early next week. Now, that's regardless on whether we get a true center of circulation to develop, but it's not out of the question. Again, the European ensemble members have at least a low-end chance for tropical depression development here, mainly off of the panhandle of Florida. If this one were to develop, it would be basically a subtropical system, cooler temperatures here. And again, the hotspot is still going to be the Eastern Pacific with multiple areas of interest over the next 7 days. This is what it looks like of the GFS AI ensemble members as well. Not as robust as the European ensemble members, but a few areas of potential low-level interest, again, mainly in the Gulf, rather than off of the east coast of the United States. So we'll monitor that. Again, just general troughing here, just disturbed weather along that decaying frontal boundary. The Google DeepMind model, right? High resolution, newer model, a few ensemble members there, pick up some broad weak development near Florida over the weekend. Some off of the West Coast, some off of the East Coast and the Georgia and the South Carolina coast. Only 4 members, though, of the entire model suite. So not a lot to really put your finger on at this point in time. But some of the models just show the opportunity to see some of that. So that's our next big weather headline is there tropical development? We'll likely know, but we'll be monitoring the situation here at Meteo Mundo, and I'll keep you up to date as we go through the rest of the week. But it's going to churn up conditions in the northern Gulf regardless and bring some heavier rain there. And we'll take a look at that coming up in just a second. As a matter of fact here, what do you say we go on to the rain outlook across the entire area? Because there's going to be some areas where we have some opportunities for some good rainfall for the week ahead. So back over to the model. This time we're going to take a look at the rain interest in your areas. We're actually going to start off here in the Eastern Caribbean. Once again, it could be another day or two of some relatively wet conditions for portions of the Windward Islands. You get to St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Barbados, I promise you're not going to have as good of a rain chance as places like Grenada and TNT, and especially back down towards Trinidad, where places like Port of Spain could continue to see rounds of heavier showers and storms at least through Tuesday evening, if not even through portions of Wednesday. Again, your rain chance is a little bit lower as the Saharan air moves back in over the other portions of the Leeward Islands, including Antigua and Barbuda, the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. It's going to be more about the heat. Not going to be surprised if the heat advisory gets extended the next couple of days. Again, it's not a bad situation for places like the Dominican Republic and Haiti to be drying out a bit with limited shower chances, relatively speaking, but still pockets of heavier downpours. Few scattered showers for my friends on Grand Turk and the southeast Bahamas. More localized, isolated rain on the northwest side of the Bahamas, but it's a relatively dry forecast overall the next 5 days, which means some heat issues could be abound there. Cuba will have somewhat limited rain chances as well. Localized scattered showers and storms across Jamaica on a daily basis. Maybe not as widespread down in the southeast side of the island. I would expect, just kind of as a general thought here, that places like Kingston and Portmore and Spanish Town will have lower rain chances the next couple of days, as areas to the west like Treasure Beach, Savlamar, Lucy, Negril, and Montego Bay, better storm chances there. Trying to improve the rain chances over Grand Cayman, Little Cayman, and Cayman Brac the next couple of days as our Central American gyre is quite active. Heavy showers and storms, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, into Honduras. Solid rain chances for the Bay Islands and Belize City over the next couple of days. Doubt we're going to have to worry about any flood issues here, but some good tropical downpours are likely. And look, it's that time of the year when the Central American gyre begins to slowly meander to the north and starts to improve rain chances in these spots. Speaking of the Central American gyre and just the spin associated with that, multiple areas are likely to develop with the Central American gyre off to the eastern Pacific. We could have a quick named storm here, and we could maybe even have a strong tropical storm or hurricane by the end of the week. I'll be monitoring that in the East Pacific here, but once again, that is the areas that are quite active. Looking at the rainfall totals over the next 5 days. Again, you'll see that boundary dive south. Look at the heavier rain for Houston and New Orleans, back towards Pensacola, Florida, and the Northern Gulf in general. And that even fills in over the weekend, right? As we get to Sunday, watch the European model really pick up the Northeast Gulf for more rain coming back in. Back down towards TNT, better rain chances here. Not as much rain for the rest of the Lesser and Greater Antilles. Heavy potential flooding thunderstorms for portions of Central America, and some downpours with maybe 1 to 2 inches of rain for places like Jamaica and the Cayman Islands on the way ahead. But Honduras, Belize, beginning to start to see improving chances there. Gale conditions are likely through portions of the open waters of the Caribbean through the week ahead. Wave heights here are likely to be 10, 12, and even 14 feet, 3, 4+ meters in the open waters of the Caribbean. But still going to have some marine issues for places like the ABC Islands, the southern coastline of the Dominican Republic and Haiti, the southern coast of Jamaica, where again, Pedro Morant Bank, 3+ meter wave heights from time to time. Some of that could head to Panama, Costa Rica, Honduras. Not as bad for portions of the Lesser Antilles. Still looking pretty good through most of the Bahamas. I would expect to start to see some fresher winds and some elevated sea heights move back into Turks and Caicos as we head towards the end of the week. So again, a lot of storms there in the East Pacific. Our Caribbean is quiet at this point in time, but expecting better storm chances with the next tropical wave coming through. And again, we'll have to monitor the areas here in the Northern Gulf for potential slow development throughout the week. And if nothing else, I think we've got a rainmaker on the way as well. Friends, I am out of time. Thank you for making Meteo Mundo a part of your daily routine. Let me know in the comment section below where you're viewing from. You got a question, drop it into the forecast. I'll be monitoring the situation for you very closely. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow.